Here we go. Hey, yo, what it is and what's good, y'all? Welcome back to 280 Plus, the social media podcast where I take the conversations of the timeline and go beyond the posts. I'm your host, Los Def, and I'm back here for episode 224 of the platform. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad to be back with y'all. So I don't know, man. I feel like we've been giving y'all episodes like every other week. You know what I mean? We turned it into a bi-weekly podcast, and I do apologize for that. It's just, like it's busy. I've been busy, man. I'm in grad school right now, working on some things. This week, we got a couple current topics to talk about. We got some things to talk about. We also got some shows that we're going to talk about in terms of like reviewing and recapping some things that's kind of been out for a little bit, but also some new things. So we're definitely going to touch on the Oscars real quick. We're going to talk about the big winners there for the culture, as y'all know. I do have a segment here to talk about the America's Next Top Model documentary. I don't know if you guys got a chance to check that out. There's another documentary. There's a lot of documentaries. There's two documentaries we're going to talk about. There's a Manosphere documentary. So we're going to get into the weeds of that a little bit and kind of give my critique of what I thought about it. And then we're gonna talk about Bam's 83 points. You know what I mean? Yeah, so Bam set the record. Well, broke Kobe's record, I would say. And we're gonna dig into that, and just people talking, is it unethical? Is it this? Is it that? Right? And where do people stand? Then we'll talk. I got a random sports topic about what's harder, like what accomplishment is harder, and we're gonna look at two different type of difficult tasks or difficult accomplishments in the world of sports, but comparing the two and what would possibly be harder. We'll have to kind of break that down into using real players and seeing how many times both of these things occurred, both of these statistics occurred, and we'll have to kind of come to a conclusion as to what's the more difficult one. And then we could touch on maybe top three, top five biggest moves in free agency in the NFL this offseason. So let's talk about it. Shout out to everybody in the state of Pennsylvania, man. We are this coming week, we're this weekend, we're coming to a lot of championship rounds, and from the 717, man, there's three different teams. I don't want to shout out to those teams, man. We got some local teams here that have made their state championship games, and that's gonna be going on this weekend. My son's birthday's coming up, my birthday's coming up, and man, we hoping to just hopefully we get some good results in some of these games, and then hopefully my son has a great birthday, man. He's turning the Big 12. Oh, I didn't even mention. So yeah, last time I couldn't mention it. So we did go to a Sixers game, me and my son, and one of the big surprises was that I got him a Wemby jersey. And yes, I'll talk about that real quick. So we've seen the Sixers versus the Spurs, and if you know anything about the NBA, right, especially when it's East and West, they only play those teams twice a year, right? You play them once at home, once away. So we went to the only home game that the Sixers would play against the Spurs, and I knew the Spurs was good, just based on their record, but to a team that went from worse, or one of the worst, into being the second best team in the NBA, that's a story. But and it's you're thinking it's kind of oh, it must be a gimmick, it must be this, it must be that, or it must be just Wemby. No, they got a unit. That team is nice, and then with Wemby out there, fully healthy, just dominating. Ironically though, Wemby didn't have that great of a game, right? So but it showed me how good their team was. Stephon Castle, I knew he was nice, right? I knew he could dunk, whatever, but that he's a real basketball player. That man can create any shot that he wants. He plays defense, and he just adds this element to his game, being able to go above the rim the way he does. Like he becomes like a formidable offensive rebounder, and like anything is liable to be put back into the rim. You know what I'm saying, with a dunk. You obviously got Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, and De'Aaron Fox is a guy actually like it's crazy because like I think he's kind of he's like and he it's almost like he's like a facilitator. De'Aaron Fox can score 50. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of score that De'Aaron Fox is. And it's like I don't know if they're really utilizing him like that, and they might need to lean on him in the playoffs. But like you got a guy like De'Aaron Fox, you got Wemby who can do a little bit of everything. He can shoot, he can dribble, he can post up, he can drive to the lane. But then they got this Vassell, bro. This young boy Vassell, bro. He is a shooter, like a shooter, bro. Like he's nasty with it. He's nasty with it. Who else is nice on that team? Oh, the rookie, and I didn't even realize this is Ron Harper's son, Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper is tough. Dylan Harper is no joke, man. That boy is nice. He can create any shot that he wants. His handle is crazy. He can finish at the rim, and then that boy can shoot the rock. You know what I'm saying? Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson, he's been on the Spurs, and been a part of this rebuild, and he's a big man, and he don't really got a flashy game, but he got a bag to him, though. You know what I mean? It don't look like he got a bag, but like this guy is high IQ, gets a lot of rebounds, can finish at the rim. Like his post work, his footwork is crazy. Then you got young guys like Carter Bryant. Shoot, they had this some young random dude named Lindy Waters that was like cooking, bro. Like they got a team, man. Like there was at one point in time in this Sixers game that they were up by almost 50. Like they couldn't quite get it to 50. They was like 48, you know what I mean? And then like they was blowing the Sixers out so bad that the Spurs didn't just put in their second unit. They put in a third unit. They put in another group of five guys that like, and that's how I heard about this guy, Lindy Waters, and they had a couple other dudes or like just old veteran big men like Bismack Biyombo and Kelly Olynyk and stuff like that. Like guys that don't see the floor any other time. Yo, Luke Cornett was cooking for them in the game. Like, bro, that unit is nice. They have what it takes. They have the pieces to compete with a OKC, and we know that they have a good record so far this year against OKC. But um, obviously, they wouldn't see each other in the first or second round, right? That would be not until the conference finals. But there are some other teams that would have something to say to the Spurs to say like, "Hey, y'all not just gonna run through us." But the Spurs are good and they have a good core and they could be good for a good amount of time. They could be good for a long time. And they just have pieces to where like you could even move some pieces to get like some more formidable pieces, right? But like again, we ain't trying to build, super teams ain't necessarily what we looking for, but they got a unit. They got a unit. They got 10 really good players. And then they got a whole nother five that they could throw in there in garbage time and stuff like that. So shout out to them. They ended up winning by 40. They didn't go up by 50. They almost went up by 50, but they ended up winning by 40. Me and my son had amazing seats. We even got our meals comped when we went to it's called Stateside Live. There's a venue that's inside like the basically the stadium complex. It used to be called Xfinity Live. They was taking so long with our food and everything like that they was just like, yo, we're just gonna take care of this for you, man. It's free. I still tipped the waitress. I told her it's not her fault. But yeah, they paid for everything. And I even had drinks on my bill. You know what I'm saying? I had a couple beers and stuff like that. So it was like they was like, nah, we take care of it. I was like, oh, bet. And then it's funny because I told the waitress that I was like, "Yo, I'm still tip you, even though like it's I get it's not your fault." Because she kept asking and wondering where our food was at. Because it's one of those restaurants where like the server doesn't bring you your food; it's like some other random person. So like there was like a discrepancy, like they lost my ticket or something like that. And like since she kept checking in with us, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna penalize her. And it's funny because I had a $20 bill, and then I was like, yo, it's all good. And she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna come back with change." I said, "Nah, you can keep that. Like, you good. Like, I mean, I got the rest of this meal for the rest of this meal is free. So like, I could spare $20, right?" So it was good. But yeah, man, we had amazing seats. We were in like section like 108, and then we was like row 109 or 108, and we was like row 8. And bro, we had the aisle. I love the aisle. And then down where we were at, we were like maybe 8 rows away from courtside. Like like amazing seats. And like the way that they have the aisle seat is like it's kind of separated from the inside seat. So like me and my son just had mad room. And it was just a great experience, man. And I just, I plan to make that like a little tradition for me and Jackson every year. We're gonna go to at least. But yeah, man, let's get going though, man. Like, but yeah, shout out to everybody. I'm good. I'm doing well. It's just we busy, man. We busy in real life. All right, so yeah, man. Obviously we're gonna talk about the Oscars, and this is one thing I'll say is that like I'm not the biggest movie guy. Like I'm not a big movie buff. I like movies, but like somebody gotta like people gotta put me on. People gotta put me on the movies. I don't just like take too many chances. I'll watch like a blockbuster, something that like I like going to the movies, and I'll watch a big blockbuster. When I go to the movies, I'm watching kid films. I'm watching animated films. I'm watching movies for my son. Um, Maybe a superhero movie or something like that. Sometimes it's something that I really want to see, but yeah, I really I watch like the big movies. I don't really watch like the artsy ones or the ones that like you know. And so like obviously I seen Sinners, but and I seen like Fantastic Four last year, which that's not like an Oscar like movie. So like I'm not really in that mix. Like I don't really I don't get to see those things now. I pay attention to the Oscars because a lot of times I go back and watch the movies after the fact. So obviously we knew that Sinners was going to be nominated for a bunch of things, and some people were a little bit upset that Sinners did not get some of the awards that people thought they deserved, but they still won big. They won four, and if they won more awards, I don't have those like here in the docket, but I have four of the big awards that they won. So of course our boy Michael B. Jordan won for best actor, right? Well deserved. And obviously there's some people that yeah, I mean like it's all subjective. So there's definitely people that are naysayers, and I didn't see all these other movies to say or justify like somebody else not being more deserving, but like to say that Michael B. Jordan was not deserving at all, that's like a overstatement right there. This man played two roles. He played both of them roles well. And if y'all don't realize, like the criticism behind Michael B. Jordan, the running joke was that he was a face actor. The running joke was that like, yo, Michael B. Jordan he don't even talk a lot in his movies. And think about this. He starred in three different Creed movies. He starred in his own trilogy, right? His own movie, right? And barely talks in any of those movies. When you look at him when he was in Friday Night Lights, barely talks. Fruitvale Station, barely talks. Even in Black Panther when he plays Killmonger, yeah, he's talking a little bit, but like barely talks. Like there's a lot more action than his actual words. So like that's the running joke is that like yo he's just a face actor, he's just a face actor, and then for him to do what he did in that role, just with the direction obviously with Ryan Coogler and just how everything looked, and it was a period piece and it was for the culture and stuff like that. This man played two twins, right, and like gave them two pretty distinct personalities, and it was in a movie that looked amazing as well. Like, yo, shout out to him, bro. Like that was one of his best performances for real. I mean, I know some people will credit other things, but like again, like think about some of these movies and shows that we've mentioned. He don't really talk in a lot of these, but this one he had to do a lot, man. He showed some range there. So Michael B. Jordan, shout out to him for best actor. Ryan Coogler gets the best original screenplay. So that's like basically saying like, the writing of it, right? The actual writing of it. It was I mean, some people would say it's Dust Till Dawn, it's a vampire movie, but like it was still original in his choosing of the period, the time period, and then just a lot of the different elements and the themes and motifs that Ryan Coogler put into it. Like, that's dope. Like he actually wrote it. It wasn't. It's not just something that he's the director of. He wrote it as well. So shout out to Ryan Coogler, man. Well deserved, right? Uh, Oscar winner. You know what I'm saying? Bringing that back home to the West Coast. Sinners also won for Best Original Score. A lot of people will credit them as having a really good soundtrack. And really, yeah, I mean, the music really it partly carried that movie as well, right? Even if you have criticisms of the acting, if you have criticisms of the storyline, we know it sounded great, right? The movie sounded great. And then another thing is that we know it looked great. So they also won for best cinematography. So shout out to Sinners for winning a lot of awards. I think the bigger winner probably of the night was One Battle After Another. That's the one that Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, but also Tiana Taylor star in that. And I think Sean Penn is in that. And that's a movie that I have to actually see. So I don't have any criticism about that. I can't say that like, oh yeah, no, Sinners should have won over this award, won over that movie. I didn't see a lot of these movies. So, but yeah, so that's one I'm gonna check out. One battle after another. I can't even tell you what it's about. I can't even tell you what it's about. So I'll be doing my homework. But shout out to all the actors and everybody that was a part of that film as well, because they were a big winner also. So yeah, but yeah, Sinners, man, Sinners. Right? Stop hating. Best original screenplay. Stop playing with them. Move on though, man. Sticking with entertainment. And we're gonna yeah, this first half we're gonna talk a little bit about entertainment, just different shows and recaps that we can go over. So how many of y'all got a chance to see that America's Next Top Model documentary, right? So, so you might think like, what made you watch that? What made you watch? So I remember when that show first came out, and I remember it was on like UPN, the WB, CW. Now, like I mean, by the time it ended, it was on the CW because that's UPN and WB turned into CW. But anyway, that's beside the point. Um, I remember when that show first came out, and I remember like, kind of keeping up with it. I remember it kind of being like a cultural piece that people would talk about. Like, like we knew some of the contestants. I actually thought like Eva, and she changed her name a couple different times. It was Eva Pigford, and then she was like Eva Marcel. I thought she was the winner of a season. I don't even think she won one of those seasons, but it's like she was known for being. Maybe she did win. I don't know, because I didn't watch enough of it to know that. Um, I remember like there was a bigger girl named Takara that like got far. I thought she won, but she didn't apparently win. But like it was always like kind of like we knew some of the people that were like winners of the show. They would show up and other different reality shows. One thing that stood out to me about this show was the fact that like it was just behind the scenes and it kind of got you into the world. Like if you had no idea anything about modeling or fashion or like how like how that kind of world operates, this was the only show that was kind of taking you into that world at all, right? Like we just see the after the product, right? And then but like them being able to kind of give us a peek behind the scenes, it was kind of interesting. And like one thing I always noticed too about Tyra Banks was that despite her being a mega supermodel, right, and being, beautiful and on top of the game, she was always trying to push the envelope for like getting different looking girls on the forefront, right? Like, I mean, and like, cause yeah, there would be times like I would flip the channel and be like, these girls ain't all that, whatever. But like, when you would see their pictures, it would come out, it'd be great and everything. So, but like, Tyra Banks had an eye for that type of stuff. She had an eye for talent because she was a part of that selection process. She had an eye for it, even though she was in the game and doing it herself. But like, and that's just one thing I noticed. Like she definitely was able to highlight people that maybe weren't. didn't have like traditional or conventional beauty attributes. Like she was able to still like hone in on the best parts of these people, right? And so I gotta give her a shout out to that. But this show was made really during the wild, wild west of reality TV, especially like the wild, wild west of reality competition TV, right? Like this is like the early days of even like Survivor. Like we had shows like The Real World and stuff like that, but we didn't have a lot of like documentary style, like not documentary style. We didn't have a lot of like reality competition shows, right? So then, shows that spring up after this or like around this time period is stuff like Biggest Loser or The Apprentice or The Bachelor. Like, I mean, just that reality competition shows, right? And so this was cool because it was like about a job. Like, yeah, we had Making the Band, right? We knew Making the Band. So it was like, oh, we're gonna give you make America's Next Top Model. And like the one dude, Ken Mock, who is one of the like I think he's the producer. I think he also produced on Making the Band. So like he understood the concept of like a competition show and like how to kind of make it how to put it on the screen in the right way. But then like he's like, yeah, this is dope, and we'll do it for modeling. Yeah, that's dope, right? But when I say it's the Wild Wild West, it was just like there, man. It's funny that we can look back in history and be like, oh, that was wrong. That was wrong. Yes, and we could say that, but like nobody. It wasn't that people. I think a lot of times we have this perception that like things are wrong in today's context, right? Today's context, something that happened back in the day would be wrong. But we also assume that like back in the day, people had a problem with it and they just were silenced. Like that's the biggest misconception. That's not the biggest, but that's a big misconception that we have of the past is that like, oh my God, like people were just so powerless and they couldn't do anything and they had no self-advocacy and they couldn't speak up for themselves and they just let all these bad things happen to them. No, the problem is that like people didn't look at some of these things as bad things at all. Like some things might have been a little bit cringy about the show, but like, or just shows in general. But like, for the most part, like we didn't feel like them people, those contestants didn't feel no type of way. They were just happy to get on TV. Back in the day, it was not easy to get on TV. Like it was like that. That's when reality TV is the precursor to social media in many aspects, right? Because that's when regular people could be pseudo celebrities, right? And they was gonna get their 5 to 15 minutes of fame and they were going to take advantage of it and it led to opportunities, but like that's the precursor to the social media influencer, right, where it's really just a regular person, right? And then they got saturated with celebrities where celebrities were became the influencers, and it's like, yo, y'all taking food out of people's mouths, right? Even podcasting, right? Podcasting was just like regular people doing this, and then celebrities got into it and saturated the market and kind of, yeah, took opportunities away. But anyway, it was the Wild Wild West. So like people didn't feel sorry and feel bad and it's not because the time period was toxic. You didn't know any better. It was as good as it possibly could get back then. You know what I'm saying? And again, like let's not act like the early 2000s was the 1960s. Like the early 2000s was a great time. Like there it didn't feel as racist. It didn't feel like it was a lot of good things going on. So one thing when you come with a documentary like this, there's always gonna be like this expose angle, like oh they're exposing the truth and like oh how bad this person was, how bad that person was, right? And I would say that that's what this documentary was trying to do. It looked like they was trying to expose Tyra, but I think that it kind of missed the mark, right? It missed the mark on trying to expose her, even though I don't think I don't think she actually deserves blame for anything for a lot of the bad things that happened because the reason why I missed the mark to like expose Tyra was because we also learned in the documentary that she only was like she was an employee of the show, right? Yes, she was a big part of like getting it green lit and like kind of, pushing the show to the right producers. I mean, and pitching the show. So yeah, it was her brainchild, but like when it came to actual production and what the day to day of what these contestants and everybody was going to do, that was production. That was the, the executives at UPN. Like we learned that she actually didn't have any control. She didn't make up the challenges and things like that. She was a judge and a host of the show and part creator of it, but like she didn't like, I mean, she wasn't that involved. And so like, so she's out, like I said, she's kind of absolved in certain aspects, right? Like they brought up some like wild stuff. They brought up like a time in one of the early seasons where, bro, they basically was making it seem like the girl got SA'd, right? You know what I'm saying? And then like on camera, but then it was like, oh, she cheated on her boyfriend, and then like, but like, and they talk about like a lot of the cringy moments where like they was literally recording her make that phone call to her boyfriend after she was popping it with some dudes, right, or with a dude. And like she had to admit that she cheated on her boyfriend on camera. Like it was like, so like it was the Wild Wild West where like, yeah, they wasn't giving people privacy. They was just trying to get any kind of content, yeah, I mean, that they possibly could, right? There wasn't all this like, oh, turn the cameras off. Like, nah, they wasn't turning cameras off. You know what I mean? So it was wild, but like ultimately though, um, you realize that Tyra didn't have that much control, and even up until the very end, she got removed from the show entirely, right? Like they went on and did it without her, even though she was the brainchild. Um, I knew, and partly too, I knew it wasn't gonna be that damaging to Tyra Banks because Tyra was in the documentary. Usually if somebody's in a documentary that they're talking about and in that time period, as much as blame you want to put on Tyra Banks, whatever, like I knew it wasn't gonna be that bad on her because she was in it, she was participating, and she was like there was moments where she was apologetic about different things, and on social media, like people took that to be like she was either like insincere, or she was like clueless, or like she missed the point. And yeah, probably back in the day, like I think she was doing what she had to do, man. Nobody even had respect. Like people didn't even look at models with any type of like true respect. Like people revered them for their looks, but like we didn't look at models to be anything other than pretty faces. We didn't look at them as like, oh, they're bosses and CEOs. So like she changed the game, bro. Like she changed that. Like she let people know that like, nah, these people are a business as well, and these women can make things happen. So shout out to her, man. Shout out to her. And I think overall she kind of got out of this documentary unscathed. Again, the documentary itself has some wild things. The show, wild things did happen on the show, but I'll be one to absolve Tyra and say I don't think it was she was as closely involved, and she's not as closely responsible to some of these things as the members of production. That's that one, right? Sticking to entertainment. All right, so let's talk about the Manosphere documentary. So I was excited to see this too, and this one it just kind of came up on like my on Instagram. They don't call it a for you page, do they? Yeah, they don't call it a for you page. Um, they don't call it that, but it's kind of like that. So it was like something that was like kind of recommended to me, and it's like it was like a popular little show. All right, so yeah, so there's a documentary called Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere. So I guess this guy Louis Theroux is a very famous documentarian, and this show featured different members of this quote unquote movement called the Manosphere. And they featured like four. It's really four different guys. There was a fifth guy, but like we'll talk about it a little bit. But it featured content creators like this guy named Harrison Sullivan. He goes by HS Tiki Taki on TikTok. Myron Gaines. His real name is Amrul Foodle. We know him as Myron Gaines from the Fresh and Fit podcast. This guy named Sneeko, who's also a content creator. He's a friend of the Tates. He collaborates with the Fresh and Fit podcast and a bunch of other guys. This man named Justin Waller, who's like I guess he's some type of like influencer, but he's another guy that's like a friend of the Tates and things like the Tate brothers. And then some guy named Ed Matthews. So Ed Matthews isn't really featured in it as much because he was wary of this guy that makes the documentaries. Like he was worried about being exposed. So like he doesn't really he's not really in the documentary too much, right? So this documentary was for people. When I look at it though, because I'm familiar with what the Manosphere is, I'm also familiar with red pill content and stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily a subscriber or like a follower of red pill content or the Manosphere necessarily, but like obviously some content that I watch and pay attention to kind of intersects with some of these different things, right? So this documentary though, I didn't think they went deep enough, right? I think this was very like it was billed and described as being this like really thorough thing, like Thoreau, right? Louis Thoreau. Like it was described to be this very comprehensive thing, but like when I think about it, it wasn't that deep at all. So this documentary was for people that have no idea what the Manosphere was. Um, what the Manosphere is and what it kind of existed to be, but and it's for people who have no clue about who any of these people are. Like this was like an introduction into who Myron Gaines is or Justin Waller. Like there some guys I didn't know who Justin Waller is, but I know Sneeko and I know Myron Gaines. I'm not familiar necessarily with Harrison Sullivan, whatever, but this was a documentary for those people, right? So, like I said before, well, the Manosphere. So, what is the Manosphere? The Manosphere is it's something that it's kind of like a movement that's created, I would say, on YouTube, but like through video content, through social media content. It's basically a section of the internet to where men are talking about just men issues, right? So you could kind of say Kevin Samuels was a part of the manosphere, right? Because he was doing a lot of like self-help for men, right? So, but then obviously with any kind of like thought movement, there's like radicals and there's people that go on the far fringes of things. So like the manosphere, the idea behind it can be positive. It's like to kind of convince men to get on track and to be more self-sufficient or whatever. Well, then there's obviously then people that turn it into like it's a space where men can talk bad about women and where you got these like fake self-help gurus that are trying to get like incel men to be able to make it easier for them to get women and things like that, like for them to approach women, like and it does turn into like a lot of like different like misogyny and hatred and name calling and chauvinism, right? Like it there's that fringe of it as well. So like even if something kind of starts out as something big and good, um this is just an example of that. So like that's what the manosphere is. So like if you didn't even know that existed, this documentary would is for you. But like again, it was billed and described as like this deep dive into the manosphere, and it's far from a deep dive at all. All the thing about this show was that all the participants, what we noticed is that they all seem to get wind that this guy was making a hit piece about him, right? So like this guy, Louis Theroux, the way he does his documentaries, he just makes it like, oh, I don't know why I'm here. Like he makes it seem like he tries to play dumb, like he's not, like he's gonna be neutral or objective, but these guys, I guess he's done other documentaries that I'm not necessarily familiar with. But then it always comes out that like, oh no, he just slammed us or he just like criticized us in the documentary, and the subjects, the people that are in it find out later. So because people knew about this guy and these content creators, all these manosphere dudes, right? A lot of them are getting wind of this, so then they're like kind of cautious in the way that they're answering questions, or they start to prevent this man from asking certain employees, or certain friends or certain family members questions about what he's doing because they're afraid that he's gonna expose them, right? So one of these things though, and we can go through some of these. So the guy Harrison Sullivan, he's this TikTok content creator. He goes around, does street interviews, whatever. He's a young boy, man, a young boy that just he don't really know. Like yeah, I mean, he's fit, he's in shape, but like every one thing that I would say that this documentary pointed out was just the hypocrisy in a lot of these guys' talking points, right? So like as these guys are talking about trying to for the betterment of men and trying to improve how men kind of operate in the world, a lot of their thoughts and opinions about how men should move were like contradictory to one another, right? So for example, like with this guy Harrison Sullivan, like the guy Thoreau was pointing out a lot of different like flaws in his logic and like how this man was talking crazy, like he would talk crazy about women being on OnlyFans, right? But then he would also advertise, like he'd also would have like some type of like fringe, um, influencer or like he would like do some type of marketing to where he's like trying to sell people to get onto these OnlyFans pages, right? So then like Thoreau was like pointing out like, oh, you don't see the hypocrisy. He's like, no, like he's like, yeah, it's not good for me. Like, or not, I don't want my woman to be this, but like, I don't mind making money off of it. But like, you could just tell from the way Harrison Sullivan was talking, he's not that intelligent. Like he's not that smart. He doesn't get the nuance. He's literally here to grift, right? And grifting is just like scamming people out of money, like just trying like a money grab. Like that's what a grift is. That's what grifters are. That's what they specialize in. They specialize in bullshitting you till they get you to come out your pockets, right? And so like that's what it was. It was just like, oh, you have a problem with this, right? But you don't mind making money off of it, right? Like, and it's just like it's very exploitive. Um and when he was asked those questions, that it was almost the guy Harrison Sullivan couldn't answer. Myron Gaines, we all know Myron Gaines. I did not know his name was Amru Foodle, right? So we're gonna say that out loud, a couple times. Amru Foodle. So I knew Myron Gaines was brown, was a brown guy. But like I thought, and I was hearing that he's from the Sudan. So, but I think like, all right, but he, like maybe like that's like it's not like Ethiopia, but like how Ethiopians and Eritreans, right? Like they're black people. Like we look at them as black people from the diaspora, but like they have like certain features to them. So I kind of thought that like that Myron is like kind of in that realm, but like Myron, it seems like he's more like an Indian, like which is nothing wrong with that, but like it explains why Myron like he poses like he kind of cosplays like he's a brother, right? And so that allows him to talk bad about black people because it kind of like without if you don't do a double take, you just think like, oh, he's a brother too. So like, and like red pill is also kind of connected to like conservatism, and like they like any chance they can to talk about bad about black people, and if they can make money on top of it, they gonna do it every time. So like so him, it just seeing him in this kind of light was kind of different too. But like I feel like there's more people that have like done like I watch like YouTube channels like O'Shea Duke Jackson, right? And or even like MTR and stuff like that. Like MTR not so much. MTR plays pretty neutral. But there's content creators that do a lot to expose this guy's hypocrisy and his lies and the way he talks. And like I feel like and I see that kind of content every single day, like something about him every single day. And I just feel like this guy Thoreau was like it was kind of service level, but like this guy just yeah, he has like weird interactions with women. We all know the Fresh and Fit podcast. That's a toxic platform to where they get drunk and a lot of times not the most intelligent girls to get on these panels to have these conversations about society and life and men and women, and then the Myron his objective is to try to make them look as stupid as he can, right, in a short amount of time. So, but we know him. The guy Justin Waller, I don't really know him. They say he's a friend of Andrew Tate. I was not really familiar with him. Sneeko, I know that he is, yeah, he gets into like a lot of these Twitter spaces. Apparently he's been banned. He's a little bit more political. He's an avid 45, 47 supporter, right? He's an avid supporter of our president. And he just kind of he's been banned from platforms because he spreads a lot of information and like a lot of hate speech. But yeah, like he has like negative thoughts about women. I don't really know too much about him other than like he just be around. And then Justin Wall, I don't know. And then Ed Matthews, he kind of hangs out with Harrison Sullivan. So um I would say that just overall, man, I, I would say that this documentary it just could have did a better job of really like digging deeper. Like this should have been a multi-episode documentary. It was like a documentary movie. It was like a quick hour and a half. It didn't even feel that long, but I feel like this could have been a documentary series, and then we could have got the different layers of it. And then I don't know, like trying to play. The reason why it's kind of corny was the guy was trying to fake as if he wasn't his objective wasn't to like expose these guys. He's just making it seem like, oh no, I'm sharing what you guys got going on, and we'll see what direction I take, and I'll give you my opinions later. Like I just thought that was kind of corny, and it kind of took away from like getting good information. And I get it, like if they know you're gonna do a hit piece on you, they're not gonna give you the information, but like somehow his cards were shown, right? And we knew what he was about to do. So that's just it's crazy there. So but overall I would say it's definitely worth watching. If you're curious, I would watch it. But if you do know anything about these guys, you're gonna feel like I feel, and you're gonna be like, damn, like it needed more. So I say like this one's like a 6 out of 10, maybe five or 6 out of 10. America's Next Top Model documentary. I give that more like a 7 because I was into that one. Like that was interesting to me. There was a lot of things that was going on in that. But let's move on. Let's move. All right, let's get into some sports. Got two major sports topics, and we might talk about a little bit about free agency. I'll probably give like the top like three big moves that I see going on in free agency. But so we're gonna talk about Bam's 83 points. Wow, Bam's 83 points, right? So I'm not a Kobe stan. I'm not a Kobe stan. I'm not like I love Kobe though. Like I like Kobe. I respect Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Yo, my son just came back from Chicago. My son got a Lower Marion jersey. He got a Kobe jersey, Lower Marion. My man got a Micah Parsons. And that's just side note, whatever. But like, cause he got a Micah Parsons Harrisburg jersey, my dude. Like, stop playing with my son, bro. Stop playing with my son. He's the flyest young boy out here. But anyway, I'm not a fan of Kobe. I'm not a stan of Kobe. I love Kobe. Um, but I have to admit that seeing Bam like in the way they're talking about it, where it's Wilt, Bam, then Kobe, like that in the record books in itself doesn't sit right. Now, here's the thing though. One thing, let's maybe lessen the blow. It's just for a single game. Like single game stats and records are impressive, but like single game stats and records are fluky too. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't determine your place in the Hall of Fame, so to speak, right? But it just does look weird, like because you would think like the best players all the time have like these singular best games, and sometimes it's not. Like we could probably dig into a lot of different records, and then we'd probably be like, who the fuck is that? Who is that? Like who's that? Now Bam is not a who is that type of player, but like I don't know. I don't know where unless he starts winning some rings, I don't know how much Bam is gonna be talked about in the future, right? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, 83 points in the record books. 83 points is still, yes, it is 83 points. But when we look at this game and we break it down, which I'm gonna break some things down about this game, that 83 was suspect as hell, man. That 83 was nasty work, man. Was nasty work. So I'm gonna give you this though, right? Bam started that game phenomenally, right? Phenomenally. The first two quarters were definitely the first half was definitely legit. Specifically, the first quarter was crazy legit. Like this guy had 31 points in the first quarter, and he was not really missing shots. He was not missing shots in that first quarter. Like he was making threes. He was driving to the lane. He did make a couple foul shots, whatever. But like I mean, he was just taking guys one on one. He was taking crazy shots. He was finishing at the rim. Like he was snapping. Like to where it's like, all right, this is cool, right? So he had like 42. He had like 42 going into halftime. 41 to 42 points going into halftime, right? This is where it gets crazy. So halfway through the third quarter, he had 45 points, right? So he didn't start he started the third quarter, but like it's not like he was like killing in the first half of the third quarter. He was kind of quiet, right? So halfway through the third, he had 45 points. By the end of the third, he had 62. So now we're like, okay. And I could see now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking like, nah, if you have 62 at the end of the third, Kobe's record does seem to be in sight. It does seem to be in sight. However, this is where it gets a little bit weird. The fourth quarter got weird to me. And to me, if it was in the natural flow of the game, if they were just calling plays for Bam and he was just like killing dudes, whatever, one on one and doing his thing, and he scored the 83, then I fully support it. However, this is where it got weird when the Heat started, it got weird when the Heat started to intentionally foul the Wizards players just to stop the clock. That's when this whole record, I would say, got goofy. So what I'm saying is that the Miami Heat held a lead. They held a over 20-point lead. Going deep into that fourth quarter, they had a lead going into that fourth quarter, deep into that fourth quarter. And they started intentionally fouling the Wizards so the Wizards couldn't waste any time. Like, you know what I mean? And so that's where it gets like weird because it's like, all right, what are we chasing here? Like what like are we did we know that we're in striking distance of Kobe and that's why we want to do this? What is it, right? But like why are we extending the game and giving why are we giving up foul shots even though we're up? Like why are we giving up like dumb foul shots and stuff like that, like intentional foul shots to a team that we're beating by 20 points? Like it don't make no sense unless you're trying to stat pad, right? um so couple things to note from Bam's 83-point game. Bam went 36 for 43 from the free throw line. Now he shot really well. That's impressive. Like I mean, if like if you were going through the season and that's what you were shooting at the free throw line, you're not having a bad season. Like and as a matter of fact, I think that's in the 80 percentile. That has to be like 83%, I believe. See, out of 40. Yeah, it's almost 84%. So you're having a great season, right? Especially as a big, right? Like, yeah, you are. You're good. You're good, right? But he did that in one game, right? And this is why it's weird too, because again, it was the intentional fouling, of, and they were fouling him. So it's weird because I'm thinking like, were there Wizards players that knew what the money line was and like was betting on him to get 83? Because like, why are the Wizards even hacking this guy? So this is how it went. So even though he made 36 free throws at the free throw line, he only made six in the first quarter. He made another six in the second quarter. Now making 12 free throws for Bam Adebayo is a lot, right? Like even though he's an interior player, he's not getting to the line like that. He's finishing a lot of these. He made 10 free throws in the third and made 14 in the fourth. Now it would make sense if he made 14 in the fourth quarter if like um his team was, I don't know, maybe only up by a little bit of points and then the Wizards were intentionally fouling them and like send them to the line even though he probably wouldn't be the person with the ball. But I'm just thinking like, did the Wizards have money on this? This is the weird thing too when it came to the fouls, the distribution. Three players on the Wizards had five fouls, so nobody fouled out the game. But it's just like, all right, y'all hacking, right? 15 fouls amongst 3 players is crazy, right? 2 players had 4 fouls or more, like 4 fouls. So you got 5 players that have at least 4 fouls in the game. That's insane. Like you have 5 guys in foul trouble, right? 3 guys had 3 fouls, right? And then it says, and then I put 10 players that played any minutes for the Wizards had a foul. So like, all right, 3 players plus 2 players is 5 players, plus another 3 players is 8 players, right? So 8 players, 8 players on their team, 8 players on their roster had 3 fouls or more, right? And then everybody that played in the game had at least 1 foul. So like they didn't have no like do not, DMPs, whatever. Some people that was like a scratch, whatever, coach's scratch. Like we don't like only the people that played in the game had a foul. So like that's what makes it feel like a collective effort, right? Um, Richard Jefferson tried to use an example of like he tried to use an example of David Robinson scoring 71 points. And the problem with that example is the fact that like yes, Bam Adebayo is maybe playing for this record, whatever, David Robinson was playing for a season long scoring title, right? So like this did not impact the Heat in any way. This did not even impact Bam specifically in any way as it relates to the whole season because each game is a part of the whole, right? So David Robinson scoring 71 points, even though they here's the thing, he didn't hit no 36 free throws. It just was that they were giving him the ball a lot. Now, Richard Jefferson pointed out that there was a little bit some intentional fouling, but David Robinson was trying to surpass Shaquille O'Neal for the scoring title, right? And that 71 points like helped him like kind of shatter that and like get above him, whatever. But like there's stat pattern that takes place, but this was actually for some type of incentive because guys get paid performance incentives all the time when they accomplish feats like this. So like I just think it's a little bit different. I don't know if you necessarily get a bonus on your contract for passing Kobe's 81 points, right? So I don't know. Like yes, when we look back into it, I mean, some people are just gonna be like 83 is 83. Like the numbers is it's gonna say what it says, right? The second most points in the game is Bam Adebayo. Okay. But people that know the truth, right, and know how the game went down, they just not gonna let you play in their face about it. Right. So that's all that is. That's all that is. But yeah, we gotta move on. What do you think about Bam Adebayo's is it legitimate? Is it kind of fraudulent? Is it goofy looking? Um, are you mad just because it's Bam Adebayo or what? Like, yeah, just give me your opinions, give me your thoughts, all right? And then I'm gonna pull up this one clip here. We got one share that we're gonna do, and then we're gonna get into that last topic. I'm just making sure. This is a question. This is a sports question only, right? So what's harder? What's more difficult in the game? What's more difficult to accomplish? 5 stolen bases in baseball or versus 5 sacks in football? So let's hear what this guy has to say, and then we'll chime in with our own opinions here.
Harder to steal 5 bases in a baseball game or get 5 sacks in a football game? My dad and I were having this conversation. My dad used to play football, and I currently play baseball, obviously. And we were just talking, he's gotten 5 sacks in a game, and I've also gotten 5 stolen bases in a game. He posed the question, what do you think is harder? 5 sacks in a football game or 5 stolen bases in a baseball game? I was like, come on, 5 stolen bases, because you got to get on so many freaking times. 5 sacks in a football game? Dude, come on. In a football game, you essentially could be going against some bum, dude. Some freaking bum. And you got about 100 plays to get to the quarterback. Yeah, dude, that's way easier. In a baseball game, however, you may be going against a bum them first 2 at-bats. But as soon as he gives up 37 runs... Yeah, they're some freaking schmeh, yeah. And then they're bringing in the guy that throws 98. Now I gotta get on 2 more times and steal a couple more bags. Mind you, the catcher's pretty freaking good, too. I'm sorry, but I feel like it's no question. Like, 5 stolen bases in a baseball game? Way harder than getting 5 sacks in a football game. Y'all let me know down in the comments what you think. Am I bugging with that, dude? Is it hard?
All right, so here's the thing. he's kind of wrong. I would say he's kind of wrong, but I think it depends on what level that we're talking about, right? Like what are we talking about? What level of play are we talking about? Are we talking about in a professional game, or are we talking about like amateurs, right? Because if we're talking about high school baseball, we're talking about little league baseball, we're talking about college baseball, like I ain't gonna lie, five stolen bases is easier, right? Like because here's the thing, like because the mindset is that like because yes, he said you got to get on so many times. Yes, you do have to get on, and it's hard to get on necessarily. But like if you're on, or if you get walked, right? Like what if you're a guy that just gets walked, right? And you're on base. So because yeah, you don't gotta get a hit to get on, right? You can get walked. You can still on any once you're on, you can still you have a chance to steal three bases every time that you're on base, you could steal three bases, right? Once you get to first, you can still second, you can still third, you could still home, right? But let's say that most guys still second, right? But like even if you're still in second and third, because yeah, home stealing home is like crazy. Like it's not that's hard as hell. Like yeah, I mean but like just if you can get two stolen bases each time you get on, you only got to get on three times, right? You only got to get on three times, and you don't even need to get a hit. Now there is a lot of different variables there, right? There's a lot of variables with the baseball, right? But like, is it necessarily harder? No, because you have this opportunity to like just make a difference. But like he makes a good point though, like a lot of times baseball teams and coaches and things like that, they're going to make the adjustment and they're going to put a better picture up against you. However, if we know in Little League Baseball, you could do whatever the hell. Like people are going crazy, teams are scoring crazy amount of runs. Like there's a lot of like in Little League Baseball and there's like inside the park home runs that happen all the time, right? So like or like yeah, you get wild pitches, you get errors, like you get got catchers that not can't even throw to the third baseman or something like that. Like you have different instances um to where that you can get that off. Now, sacking the quarterback five times, that's not that that's very rare. That's very rare air, right? That's very rare air. Now, yes, you could be going against a bum, but like, yeah, somebody's going to chip you. They're going to start running the ball, but you're not. It's not very likely that you're getting a chance to sack a quarterback five different times because yeah, they're going to put somebody in front of you. So the only other way, right, for me to like try to determine this is obviously I'm looking at the NFL level, right? And I have to determine how many I had to ask and look up how many times did each of these statistical feats, how many times did they occur, right? So five sacks in a game has happened 20 times in NFL. Derek Thomas did it twice. Rest in peace, Derek Thomas, and Khalil Mack did it twice, right? So like, so all right, so it's happened 20 times. It's happened 20 times. And then two guys have done it twice. All right. So it makes it a little bit more common. All right. Or it might seem a little more common. However, in baseball, it's happened five stolen bases happened 23 times. So it's happened three more times in the MLB, right? And then this guy named Eddie Collins, he did that accomplishment three different times. So let's see, how many times has someone stolen five bases in a game? Okay, yeah. So wow, there's people that have stolen has six stolen bases in a game, right? No, there's like four. Okay, okay. Eddie Collins did it. Otis Nixon did it. Eric Young did it, and then Carl Crawford did it. And they actually stole six bases in a game. These elite performances are rare with over a century between some of the six steal games. So yeah, they I asked for five steal games, and then they gave me guys that did six steal games. So yeah, no, the conversation. There's even two guys that have stolen seven bases, George Gore, and then so if we're talking about five, so it's 21 plus for five, but then the six gets counted. Six has happened five times. Bro, yeah, no. All right. Yep. Conversation over. Stealing five bases, as rare as it is, right? It is easier to steal five bases in a game than it is to stack the quarterback five times. Sacking the quarterback five times, you like there's not you have to be a super elite player. Like, and when I looked at some of these names, like, yeah, it's like it's some of the best, but like there's not like some most random person that did the five sacks in the game is like Adrian Claiborne, right? But like at least in college he was a beast, you know what I'm saying? Like but when he got to Tampa, he was okay, you know what I'm saying? But like nah, I'm going with the easier one. Easier one is the five bases because again, you don't have to get that many hits. Like you just got to get on base. So if you're a walking specialist, and then like if you know how to steal two bases on each at bat, and then if you could steal that third, you know what I mean, like an errant throw, making it, so where it's an error, yeah, like you can get your five stolen base. So I'm saying that's easier. That's easier. All right. Last thing before we go, and maybe we could dive into this more. So, if I had to say like some of the biggest moves in free agency, just overall, it's definitely Max Crosby getting his deal rejected due to allegedly due to him having a failed um physical. I would say that that's crazy. That's crazy work that actually happened. But it's not that crazy because we know that this tampering period is just a tampering period. Like when that period of time where they make all these deals before like free agency actually starts, like I've it was another year recently where like there was a big deal that was supposed to go down and then it didn't go down, right? Like the basically either the team rescinded or the player kind of backed out. I think the player more so backed out. So, but like a team rescinding, maybe that is like kind of crazy. But like yeah, the Ravens were about to like mortgage their future for Max Crosby and then help the Raiders be like this dominant team with all these draft picks, right? They were gonna give two first round draft picks for him. Well, yeah, I mean, Baltimore gets to keep their draft picks, and the Raiders get to keep their franchise defensive cornerstone and Max Crosby. But that was wild that deal got rejected. Malik Willis going to the Miami Dolphins. Now that's the biggest quarterback signing of this, and like you think about last year, you had Sam Darnold go somewhere, you had Daniel Jones go somewhere. Um, Even did Geno Smith went so like Justin Fields went to the Aaron Rodgers, like so you had some deals, right? And I know Aaron Rodgers went later, right, in the offseason. But Malik Willis, man, a lot of people feel like he's up there and like he's gonna be really good. However, this other move makes that a little bit wild, and it's the Miami Dolphins trading Jalen Waddle for a first round pick. Now it's dope that they got a first round pick out of him, but they gotta make that pick count because that's a pick for this year. It's not for next year. So I'm wondering who the heck is Malik Willis gonna even throw to? Like you gave away his number one receiver. Sure, they could draft a guy, but like it's gonna be an unproven dude that's not better than Waddle at this point in his career, right? So that's interesting. And then I would say because I did mention the Waddle deal, Romeo Dobbs going to the Patriots. So the Packers lost some players. We lost Quay Walker as well, but Romeo Dobbs getting a chance to really be a number one. He's not getting paid number one money. His contract is like about 17, a little bit over $17 million a year, which is good money, but it's not number one receiver money, right? So it's not number one receiver money. However, he is being if you're basing it on his production, he's being overpaid, right? Romeo Dobbs has never had like more than 700, 800 yards in a season, right? The Patriots just released Stephon Diggs, which some of that has to do with like some of his off the field antics. Stephon Diggs still in a down year. Stephon Diggs had 1,000 yards receiving. Romeo Dobbs has still not had 1,000 yards in any of his seasons. So yes, in a down year for Stephon Diggs, Romeo Dobbs still has not accomplished that, and Romeo Dobbs is going to be making more, wherever he goes and lands. He's going to be making more than Stephon Diggs. His next destination. Now, granted, he's like 6, 7 years younger than Stephon Diggs, but like we'll see. So, I don't know. I wonder what's going to happen. But we'll dig into some more deals. As it pertains to what's kind of going on in the league and how it's shaping the league. We'll get into. I'm glad to just be back, and I'm glad to give y'all some content. Man, yeah, what we talked about free agency moves. We talked about this five stolen bases or five sacks. What's harder? Bam going for 83 points. So that was our sports section, and then we had an entertainment section. We talked about the Manosphere doc, the America's Next Top Model documentary, and then Sinners winning big at the Oscars. All right. So if you're still watching this channel, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you can stay up to date. Leave a comment below if you want to join the conversation. Share the content with someone you love, and yeah, man, just yeah, chime in, tap in with us, man. I'm back. This is episode 224 of the 280 Plus podcast. Y'all, I'm out. Peace. Peace.